Hey guys, so I was talking with my wife one day and remarked, offhandedly, that if everyone would just stop taking a stand, there would be no problems in the world. This was not meant as a joke, but also not meant in all seriousness. She raised a question that I've been thinking about for a while now. Is there a difference between being stubborn and being determined? The Google definition of stubborn is having or showing dogged determination not to change one's attitude or position on something, especially in spite of good arguments or reasons to do so. Some example synonyms that Google lists are obstinate, headstrong, and pig-headed. Conversely, the definition of determined is having made a firm decision and being resolved not to change it. As you can imagine, the listed synonyms are not as negative as those listed for stubborn. It seems that stubborn and determined are clearly different from these definitions, and one is clearly a negative thing while the other is positive. But I still have to ask the question, is it even a good thing to be resolved, fixed, or committed to an ideal, philosophy, creed, or way of life? Injustice: Gods Among Us is a video game based on characters from DC Comics that offers a clear example of the negative ramifications of commitment to a cause or stubbornness depending on your view. The game's story is kickstarted when Superman gets tricked by the Joker into setting off a nuclear bomb in Metropolis, killing Superman's wife Lois Lane and their unborn son. Dick move. In a fit of rage, Superman kills the Joker and vows to use his power to the fullest extent to make the Earth a safe place. This leads to him being a violent dictator, obviously because of logic, who brings both heroes and villains into his regime and is obsessed with order. This creates conflict with Lex Luthor, a longtime enemy of Superman in the comics, but who's not in the video game due to parallel dimensions. It's weird. Anyways, Lex believes strongly in men's freedom. He bases his motive for rebellion against Superman on the idea that mankind has to be free to make mistakes and suffer the consequences. Only then can we be strong. We can't have a godlike figure stepping in and forcing everyone to play nice. Another major character in the story who is allied with Lex is Batman, whose sense of justice won't let him endorse Superman, on the grounds that Superman now has no problem with killing, which is the great cardinal no-no to the Batman. Each of these three characters is stubbornly determined to uphold their beliefs. Superman, peace and order; Batman, justice; and Lex Luthor, freedom. Each ideology has strong arguments for and against it, but what creates the conflict of the game isn't the beliefs, but rather the character's uncompromising attitude in the face of opposition. Another real-life example of stubbornness and determination leading to conflict is the current political climate in the United States. I will use President Donald Trump as an example, but every politician does seem to fit what I see. He is simply the most scrutinized currently. I can remember that during the primaries, Republican proponents of Trump listed as some of his virtues that he was, quote, a winner, and, quote, wasn't going to compromise. Now, that's not an exact quote, hence I have not included a source, but in or out of any context, not compromising has always bothered me. There are definitely things that I would hope any politician would be uncompromising or firmly committed to. I want our elected officials to be completely committed to putting the US citizens' needs before anything else. I also want their actions in office to ensure that there is a guaranteed future for their nation, and that said future seems to be brighter than the present. However, it seems that both sides are less committed to the American people and more committed to beating the other party, group, or association. Democracy is founded on the idea of compromise, that by electing officials to represent all peoples, everyone can reach a mutually beneficial deal. It worries me that instead of being uncompromising with the drive for a better future, elected officials are instead uncompromising with each other. So all that leads me to the real questions I wanted to answer with this video. If determination and stubbornness lead to conflict, is there any way to be determined and still have peaceful interactions with others? Is there a way to not compromise one's beliefs, morals, or duty, and yet avoid clashing with opposing beliefs, morals, and duties? Is there a way to disagree without enmity? I believe there is. But I'm not going to lie, I don't know how to effectively convey my philosophy without potentially angering some people very close to me. Keep in mind that this video is not meant to offend anyone. It's actually meant to help us think of how we cannot offend people and still be true to ourselves. So let's talk about the gay rights movement. For the purposes of this video, I will refer to those who are for gay marriage as the LGBT community. I know that now it can be referred to as the LGBTQ community, but it is unclear which title the community in question prefers, so I will call it the LGBT community. So, this national community started as a minority group feeling like they did not have a fair deal in society and government. Their actions to change legislation quickly grew into one of the quickest, most successful, and strangest civil rights movements I can think of. That last bit is from an outsider looking in. I didn't care enough either way to form a strong opinion at the time. From what I saw, the two sides of the argument started as follows. Homosexual marriage was banned in 14 states, so the LGBT community appealed at the federal level to let them get married. Their main opposition was some sects or churches of Christianity and their affiliates who believed homosexuality to be a sin and wanted no part of it. Despite a clear persecution and persecutor role in the beginning, both sides eventually gained an equal measure of persecutor and persecution complexes. That's not to say everyone on either side was being a bully and a victim at the same time, but there were enough loudmouths on either side that was the image which was created. Marriage is a complex issue. You can be married by a judge, clergy, or by simply living together long enough. That's called marriage by common law. All of them let you lay claim to tax exemptions and insurance benefits in some or all states, and the effects of marriage, or the lack thereof, is felt from the bottom of society to the top. It has a part in dictating what is acceptable in the entertainment mediums, determines children's lives in and out of the home, and what subcultures become taboo or accepted. I've actually heard an interesting theory that marriage harnesses the male sex drive by making him responsible for and having to work to get sex. Thus, marriage drives civilization. But I digress. Talking about the effects of marriage on our nation could take up some very smart essays and videos from people much smarter than me. So it wasn't a simple problem, and it was a conflict that had the power to shape everything to come afterwards. Both sides lay claim to the moral high ground and condemned the other one. On one hand, no one wants the law to protect private institutions being discriminatory jerks. But on the other hand, forcing private businesses and churches to give services they don't want to give flies in the face of freedom. I'm not an expert on the subject, and I've probably said too much and will get my head chewed off by the fury of the internet. But I think there is a way that both sides could have stayed committed to their morals, and both sides could have won. The answer that I see lay in the separation of church and state. I see no reason why the federal or state governments should have anything to do with marriage, but since they are in this game, and their purpose is to protect all their citizens, it would make sense that they would make changes to allow different types of marriages as they sprung up. But if marriage is pursued in the religious route, that's the religion's prerogative, and nothing should be allowed to force a clergyman of any faith to betray his conscience. And you know what? From what I can tell, that's kind of what happened. States can't ban gay marriage anymore, but religious entities aren't forced to participate in gay marriage. So why then did one side in particular feel like their morals had been betrayed? It's because both sides were stubbornly committed in the wrong way. The LGBT community started off just wanting freedom, but the opposition quickly morphed the LGBT message into a reaction against the fear or anger of being judged, discriminated against, or persecuted. so it felt like they started trying to force their way of life on a nation where I'm pretty sure most people just didn't care. On the other side of the fence, the religious opposition did as they frequently do, and took this matter personally. It was no longer a case of a, quote, misguided group of people wanting freedom and protection under the law for their less than criminal choices, but rather it was a blight of sin that was going to drag the entire nation to hell if those poor sinners weren't saved. I know I'm giving into hyperbole, and not everyone was like that. But again, the vehement hatred of that time from a couple of select jerks and loudmouths made it feel like the country was fighting an internal holy war. To recap, in the recent gay marriage civil rights movement, say that 5 times fast, there were 2 opposing sides. Both sides claimed the moral imperative. Both sides were determined to see the right thing done as they saw it. Both sides' determination turned into stubbornness when they refused to truly listen to the arguments of the opposition and instead just responded with anger and hatred. This led to a civil conflict with people acting very uncivilized, ironically enough. Was there a way to avoid this hatred? Was there a way for both sides to stay committed to their beliefs and be civil to the other? I believe there was. In any disagreement, there is always a path for 2 determined people or groups to stay determined and still get what they want. Violence, aggression, and petty arguing are not only not the answer, but giving into them often leads you to betray what you were being committed to in the first place. It's hard to not get defensive. It's hard to not want to beat the face off of every person who disagrees with you. It's easy to give in to anger under the justification of being committed to a cause. And because it's easy, we have a country that has never felt so divided. Maybe it's always been like this, and we can just be dweebs to a lot more people at once via the wonderful inventions of social media. Whatever it may have been or may be, it's wrong. People aren't being determined in goodness. They aren't determined to make the world a better place. They're just being stubborn jerks who want to see the other side lose. And thus my parting plea. Don't be like that. Find something solid to believe in, to be determined in. But don't let that determination blindly lead you into conflict after conflict. You be the master of your determination, the captain of your beliefs. And for goodness sake, don't use your moral determination to be a dweeb. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I kind of want to do more of these rambling philosophical videos. If there's anything I can do to improve and be better, let me know. Also, I just want to say, if you feel like I missed any arguments, or if I was way off the mark, or if you want to, I don't know, like, call me a person with a monkey head whose brain is just a dinosaur-sized poop, then go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and y'all go have a great and wonderful time. Thanks. Bye.